Wall Street predicts slight oil price drop in 2026 despite current surplus. When Wall Street starts predicting oil prices, it's like a weatherman calling for sunshine during a hurricane. Odds are someone's getting drenched.
EU delays petrol car sales ban to 2040, calls it progress. The EU's idea of progress is like trying to run a marathon in flip-flops. You're still moving, but good luck finishing the race.
Dresden's Christmas market boosts security fearing tinsel-loving terrorists, because nothing says season's greetings like a metal detector and a frisking at the entrance of your favorite mulled wine stall.
Neo-folk band Amorphati releases new album, promises eternal angst. Because nothing says timeless like brooding acoustic tunes that make your existential crisis feel like a cozy fireside chat with Nietzsche.
India's inflation rate rises slightly. Central bank still dreams of 4%. Because nothing screams economic stability like hoping your inflation rate behaves while you play the interest rate lottery.
Trump signs executive order punishing states for AI laws because nothing says freedom like federal overreach. Apparently, the land of the free now comes with an asterisk. Terms and conditions apply, especially if you dare to regulate technology.
Spain targets 55 billion euros in net debt for 2026, calls it stability. Because nothing spells economic stability like borrowing billions and hoping for the best. Keep calm and carry debt, Spain.
Spotify pays artists less than a penny per stream, calls it fair compensation. Low fidelity All Stars Jam 2 Battle Flag. But the real fight is musicians getting paid. Stream it 42 million times and they might afford lunch.
Spotify pays artists less than a penny per stream, calls it fair compensation. Garbage might be push it, but Spotify's pushing artists to the brink. Stream it a million times and they might afford a decent guitar pick.
Judge orders Trump to pull California National Guard from LA, then calls it a win for local sovereignty. When the law says go home, even the most brash commander-in-chief must listen. Sorry, Donnie, LA's not your sandbox anymore.
Trump's FEMA Council proposes major downsizing of agencies, yet denies plans for elimination.
Badenoch slams Farage for not apologizing over alleged racist remarks at school. Farage's refusal to say sorry is like wearing a badge of dishonor, as if accountability is an optional subject at Dulwich College.
Celebrate the market's high while Oracle does a low dive, proving that even in finance, there's always a party pooper.
Democrats vow to tackle healthcare, but insurance premiums soar. Playing a fence sounds great until you realize the game is rigged and the scoreboard is set to profit over people.
US demands Ukraine withdraw from Donbass, promising a free economic zone. Because nothing says freedom like trade zones where profits are free to roam while people are stuck in the crossfire.
Messi lands in India for 3-day GOA tour because even legends need a vacation. Nothing says greatest of all time like a whirlwind tour where the only goal is more photo ops than football.
Storm Byron floods Gaza's displaced in tents, proving misery loves company. When Mother Nature and human nature team up, the forecast is always disaster with a chance of neglect.
US plans to demand 5-year social media history from tourists because privacy is so last century. Welcome to America, where the land of the free comes with a side of digital strip search.
US seizes tanker off Venezuela's coast, erases oil losses, and writes a new chapter in the How to Win Friends by Force manual. When diplomacy fails, nothing says, let's talk, like a bit of maritime muscle flexing. Oil's the price, peace is the price.
Federal agents pepper spray Minneapolis crowd, call it crowd control, and redefine serve and protect as spray and pray. Nothing says land of the free like a spicy cloud of compliance. Trump's America, where even democracy gets a dose of pepper.
Duffy and RFK Jr. compete in airport pull-ups, redefining flexing as the new diplomatic handshake. In the age of political posturing, why debate policy when you can just pump iron? Who needs substance when you've got biceps?
Greece signs NH90 support contract, labels it defense upgrade. When your economy's on life support but your helicopters are thriving, priorities sure take flight. Who needs economic stability when you've got rotor blades spinning?
Only 40% of music fans recognize Commodore's easy, and nostalgia calls it a classic. In an age where TikTok decides what's trending, the soulful simplicity of the past struggles to compete with today's digital noise.
Trump administration cancels Biden-era student debt repayment plan, then calls it relief for the taxpayers. In a nation where the rich get richer, young graduates are left holding diplomas in one hand and debt chains in the other.
US sanctions Maduro family and Venezuelan tankers, then lets Chevron keep drilling. While Washington flexes its moral muscle, Chevron's oil rigs keep pumping away, proving that in politics, hypocrisy is the slickest lubricant.
No, Quantum raises $60 million in Series A, calls it a quantum leap. While investors tingle with futuristic dreams, the rest of us wonder if this quantum web will buffer or just leave us buffering.
Keir Starmer eulogizes fallen soldier in Ukraine, then votes for more arms. While Starmer offers platitudes, the cycle of sending soldiers to die in faraway lands continues undisturbed, wrapped in the flag of honor.
UC Berkeley professor catches PhD student sabotaging rival, then shrugs off academic integrity crisis. When the ivory tower turns into a reality show, you know it's time to question the value of those PhDs, unless sabotage is the new curriculum.
Steelers TJ Watt sidelined for MF after lung surgery. Calls it a minor setback. When your lungs have more holes than the Steelers' defense, maybe it's time to rethink the meaning of playing through pain.
Zelensky warns of China-Russia military embrace despite global tensions. When your frenemies start building bombs together, it's a good time to check your fallout shelter in your friends list.
In the financial world's version of a staring contest, everyone's too scared to blink, lest the Fed smacks them with a surprise.
While the masses bought the recycled beans.
Trump's tariffs dropped revenue by $600 million, and he still dreams of slashing the national debt. Turns out taxing imports isn't a magic money tree, it's more like a leaky faucet, drip, 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 while the debt mountain looms Everest high.
Apparently, news distortion now means reporting facts that don't align with the echo chamber.
U.S. sanctions 4 Colombians for recruiting Sudan fighters, calling it a transnational network. When your business is war, the spreadsheet's blood red. But hey, at least they're diversifying their portfolio. Chaos, collateral, currency.
When your ego needs a dance floor, taxpayers foot the bill. Who knew opulence was the new austerity?
SpaceX targets $1.5 trillion valuation. Hinges on Starlink and Elon Musk's dreams. When your business plan is sci-fi fanfic, reality might just be the plot twist no one saw coming.
John Michael Montgomery announced his final concert, says it's tough to say goodbye. Even the honky-tonk heartthrobs must hang up their cowboy boots, but nostalgia's twang will never fade in the jukebox of our hearts.
OpenTable CEO predicts dining out will thrive, ignoring rising food costs. Apparently, the secret ingredient to beating inflation is a sprinkle of denial and a dash of wishful thinking, served with a side of overpriced appetite.
Step right up, folks. Experience the thrill of being herded like cattle through a high-tech chute while your identity is scrutinized pixel by pixel. Bon voyage!
China declares itself the AI governance leader.
Online trolls smear Taylor Swift as Nazi sympathizer, then claim it's just satire. When coordination meets conspiracy, even pop icons can't shake it off. Guess hate's gonna hate, but now in high def.
In a plot twist worthy of a Southern Gothic novel, Georgia voters decided their sweet tea needed a little blue splash.
Gov. Kathy Hochul signs SAG-AFTRA bills to regulate AI performers, calls it a Hollywood reboot. In a move that makes Broadway bots more union-savvy than human baristas, New York's getting ready for its AI close-up.
US seizes sanctioned oil tanker near Venezuela, claiming it's a win for democracy. Because nothing says freedom like playing pirate with international waters while the planet's on fire and the oil's already spilled.
Because
Trump blocked state AI laws himself after Congress decided not to act. When your toddler refuses to share, you teach them cooperation, but when it's a president, you get a solo act of legislative limbo.
It's like a high-stakes game of Guess Who, where everyone loses, and the prize is a free trip to the land of public scrutiny and moral bankruptcy.
Poland to start building first nuclear plant after EU approves 14 billion euros in state aid, because nothing says green energy like splitting atoms. With that much cash, you could buy a small country or a lifetime supply of pierogi, but instead, we're rolling the dice on a nuclear future in the land of kielbasa and cautious optimism.
Amanda Seyfried names Eminem's Lose Yourself as her all-time favorite during chat with Sydney Sweeney, proving even Hollywood has a soft spot for Mom Spaghetti, because nothing bonds two actresses like a mutual appreciation for motivational rap and a universal struggle of keeping it together when the pressure's on.
South Korea's exam chief resigns over insane English test, leaving students to decode the Rosetta Stone of standardized testing. When your English exam requires a PhD in hieroglyphics, it's no wonder even the chief decides to drop the mic and walk off stage.
Governor Newsom uploads AI video of Trump in handcuffs, transforming political theater into a digital art form. When reality TV meets AI, even the ex-president finds himself starring in a virtual perp walk. Who needs truth when you've got tech?
In a world obsessed with red carpets, Kugler's blue-collar heart beats for authenticity. Oscars may glitter, but he's mining for gold in the everyday grind.
Wall Street traders cash out AI gains, sinking hopes of record highs. In the casino of capitalism, profits are pocketed while the roulette wheel spins on. AI's allure fades as the market's fickle finger points elsewhere.
Coal companies file for bankruptcy, yet executives still cash bonuses. As the industry chokes on its own fumes, execs light cigars with severance checks. It's a classic tale of burning the planet while pocketing the ashes.
Michigan Wolverines fire head coach over inappropriate relationship, but boosters still cheer. Turns out, the only thing more offensive than losing a game is fraternizing with the staff. Who knew college sports had a moral compass buried under all that turf?
Rijksmuseum opens Eindhoven outpost.
AI-powered phishing kits bypass MFA, making your credentials their plaything. Apparently, two-factor authentication is now the two easy steps to steal your identity, with AI gleefully holding the door open for cybervillains.
Mayor Adams plans to skip Zohran Mamdani's inauguration, citing prior commitments. Apparently missing the historic swearing-in of NYC's first South Asian mayor is just another calendar conflict, like a dentist appointment or laundry day.
Darius McCrary, released from jail, awaits sentencing after October arrest.
From sitcom sweetheart to courtroom drama, McCrary's life script took a hard left, proving not all family matters resolve with a hug.
"13 Republicans defy GOP leadership, vote with Dems to repeal Trump's order on federal unions." When 13 Republicans cross the aisle, it's less about bipartisanship and more about finding the spine they misplaced during the Trump years.
Trump loses political battles like a bad gambler at a Vegas buffet. When your presidency is a sinking ship, even the rats know when to jump overboard.
When the establishment prefers chaos over fair wages, you know the aristocracy's tea is spiked with a touch of delusion.
Trump takes 3 dementia tests, boasts about passing, then forgets he's 79. When your cognitive prowess needs a trilogy of tests to confirm.
Only 25% of Romanian schools in Odessa survive past 2027, and the ministry calls it integration. When cultural erasure is rebranded as unity, it's not just history that gets rewritten, it's entire futures that vanish.
When your post-game plan involves handcuffs instead of high fives, it's time to reassess your playbook, not just your defense.
Only 4% of ICE arrests are the worst, yet DHS still plays the fear card. When non-violent offenses get painted as the apocalypse, maybe it's time to question who's holding the brush, and why it's always dipped in hysteria.
The Flying Picket's Only You, a cappella lands in 1983, serenades the charts with pure vocal magic. When instruments take a backseat and voices drive the melody, it's a reminder that sometimes less really is more unless you're talking about ICE arrests.
Photos reveal Epstein's Manhattan townhouse and Trump's Oval Office share similar gold decor, proving tackiness transcends criminality. When your interior design screams dictator chic, maybe it's time to reevaluate your priorities, or at least hire a new decorator.
Top economist explains tariffs finance the federal government until the 1913 income tax, but nostalgia won't pay today's bills. Turns out you can't fund a modern government on sepia-toned fantasies and dusty economic policies. Time to move on, folks.
Manchester City defeats Real Madrid 1-2, leaving Bernabeu fans questioning their devotion. When your home turf feels more like a visitor's playground, it's time to rethink that home advantage strategy.
Trump claims Thailand and Cambodia ceasefire, then takes full credit. When peace is brokered over a phone call, and Trump's ego grows faster than the ink on the treaty.
Von der Leyen welcomes migrants, calls it a skills revolution. When Europe needs a talent upgrade and suddenly everyone's a welcome guest in the once heavily guarded club.
Fed predicts market rise in 2026 despite current losses. It's like betting on sunshine after a storm while standing in a flood. Hopeful, but not exactly a solid forecast.
Democrats scramble over primary chaos, call it democracy. It's a political supermarket sweep, but the prize is a broken mop and a bucket of murky water.
Khalid Mashal asserts young Americans support Hamas defying reality. This claim has about as much credibility as a chocolate teapot at a summer picnic.
Democrats seize Miami mayor's office after 3 decades, calling it a new dawn. The headlines are celebrating like it's New Year's Eve, but Miami still wakes up to the same old hangover of gentrification and sea level rise.
Just another day when the royal family gets to play Clue while the rest of us are stuck with Monopoly's get out of jail free card missing from the box.
In the land of buzzwords, zero trust is the new black, but much like fashion, it's mostly about looking good without actually doing much.
In a plot twist worthy of a courtroom drama, these jurors are the real stars, proving that sometimes even the law says, no thanks, we're good.
In a quantum leap that leaves us all in the dust of confusion, this processor promises the future while still struggling to find a practical purpose today.
Feyenoord fans destroy Bucharest apartment after UEL defeat, proving sportsmanship is still on the bench. In a classic display of sore losing, these fans decided that if their team couldn't win on the field, they'd take home the prize for worse guests instead.
Trump's ceasefire crumbles as Thailand and Cambodia resume fighting, blaming each other for reigniting violence. In the latest episode of Diplomacy According to Trump, a ceasefire lasts about as long as a celebrity marriage, because who needs peace when you've got finger pointing?
Iran arrests Nobel Peace Prize laureate Narges Mohammadi, claiming it's for national security. In the land where peace prizes are apparently threats to peace, Iran has decided that promoting human rights is the real crime, because nothing says secure like silencing the voices of reason.
Scientists capture most detailed look inside DNA droplets, revealing mysteries of life's tiniest dance.
Apparently in 2025, presidential strategy involves bathroom humor, leaving supporters wondering if the White House staff includes a court jester. When policy becomes a punchline, democracy is truly in the toilet.
Bait launches Europe toward 2026, revives 80s prog rock. Adrian Belew, Tony Levin, Steve Vai, and Danny Carey fuse into a nostalgic supernova, proving that rock legends never retire. They just get louder. When you mix virtuosity with nostalgia, the only discipline is in the eardrums.
Disney partners with OpenAI, lets Sora craft AI character videos. Mickey Mouse and friends are getting a digital facelift, courtesy of $1 billion investment, because nothing says magic like $1 billion AI makeover.
When the president critiques a doll's PR strategy, you know the budget's got more holes than Swiss cheese. Maybe Barbie's just trying to build her dream house.
Federal agent detains lunch-breaking citizen with chokehold. Video captures chaos. When grabbing a sandwich turns into a wrestling match with the feds, lunchtime takes on a whole new meaning. Who knew a BLT could be a crime scene?
Free Software Foundation awards Andy Wingo, Altsa, and GovDirectory for contributions. But digital freedom still feels like a vintage dream.
When drones start doing the cha-cha over your chemical plant, maybe it's time to rethink the whole invincible fortress narrative.
UN report shows global hunger decreased, yet Africa and Western Asia see rise, and they call it balanced progress. When your progress is a seesaw of starvation, maybe it's time to admit the scales are rigged and the world's not your playground.
Top EU diplomat demands Russia reduce its army, then suggests peace hinges on a military diet.
Trump official faces lawsuit for enabling abuse of underage ring boys while preaching anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric. The moral high ground is a slippery slope when your hypocrisy is greased with the tears of those you claim to protect.
Liverpool managers slot to discuss Salah's future as transfer rumours cloud Saturday's match plans. When your star player's future is as hazy as a British fog, every meeting becomes a transfer tango with the press as your dance partner.
NATO ally labels America a security threat after Trump hints at annexing territory like Russia did in Crimea. It's a dark day when your supposed protector is eyeing your backyard like a real estate mogul with an annexation itch.
$300,000 demand Missouri referendum, hoping to overturn GOP gerrymandering that's carved the map like a Thanksgiving turkey. When democracy looks more like a jigsaw puzzle designed by a toddler, it's time to reclaim the crayons from the politicians.
Indiana's Senate defeats redistricting bill Trump demanded, proving even a broken clock can get it right twice a day. When a Senate of red finally says no to Trump's crayon-drawn districts, it's a rare case of sanity breaking through the red mist.
Australia bans social media for teens, but they always said they'd die without Wi-Fi. When governments fear TikTok more than climate change, you know the end times are nigh and the apocalypse has a selfie filter.
Indiana Senate rejects Trump's redistricting plan, proving even gerrymandering has limits. When your maps are more crooked than a politician's smile, expect a few red lines to turn blue.
AIU claims elite cheats evade detection, calling anti-doping efforts stalled. When the foxes are smarter than the hounds, it's no surprise the henhouse is missing a few gold medals.
Reddit user hilariously captions photo, declaring this piece has an amount, and the internet nods knowingly. When even peace comes with a price tag, you know capitalism's got its fingers in every pie, even the non-violent ones.
Netflix releases new Knives Out, claims it's a miraculous self-reinvention, and charges the same subscription fee, when reinvention is just more of the same in different wrapping. Hollywood's got the magic trick of turning deja vu into dollars.
US seizes tanker off Venezuela, finds it part of Iranian shadow fleet and calls it a win for freedom. When the world's police badge is just a fancy logo for oil control, freedom starts looking suspiciously like a branding exercise.
When even superheroes need therapy and punchlines, maybe the real superpower is surviving the writer's room without a cape.
Trump spreads complete nonsense about London violence, Met Police Chief retorts. When the leader of the free world talks so fishy over facts, maybe it's time to check if his briefing comes to the plot twist.
Bush's torture architect condemns Trump's actions, and that's a low bar to limbo under. When your moral compass is so skewed it shocks a torture advocate, it's time to rethink your direction, or just stop digging.
If Shazam's your broken compass, try forums and subreddits, where the beat sleuths roam, hunting down hooks like musical bloodhounds.
Firefighters inspected the gas line hours before the explosion, then returned to find chaos. It's the classic harden-it with a twist. The culprit's a gas leak, and the sleuths missed the ticking time bomb on their first go-round.
ECB predicts 2% inflation, calls it a win. Celebrate like it's 1999, when 2% inflation was a party trick, not a desperate hope to avoid economic purgatory.
Only 10% of Christmas songs mention Jesus, and the industry calls it progress. In the land of jingle bells and credit card swipes, even the reason for the season gets remixed into a catchy afterthought.
US withdraws last research ship from Antarctica, claims it supports science. In the icy heart of climate change's front line, America swaps presents for platitudes, leaving scientists to paddle in policy quicksand.
BHP and Rio Tinto push projects in Argentina, calling it a mineral boost.
Colombian miners construct cathedral 180 meters underground, call it divine intervention. When faith meets geology, you get a holy cavern where prayers for safety echo louder than the sound of corporate profit.
French farmers demand blockades over cow clash with riot police.
Chandler rejects AI data center after big tech lobbying, defying former cinema. When Arizona's desert says no to Silicon Dreams, it's a rare day when the cacti outlast the cash.
Only 30% of Epstein files audited, and Senate Democrats call it progress. When transparency is measured in shadows, it's no surprise if the truth slips through the cracks like a ghost in the night.
Only 40% of bioengineering papers scrutinized, and the university calls it a minor oversight. When science starts resembling a game of spot the difference, it's clear that integrity's been left out of the laboratory.
Elon Musk regrets Dodge hype, blames market volatility. When the dope father's moonshot turns into a crash landing, maybe it's time to stop taking financial advice from memes.
Austria votes to ban headscarves for girls under 14, calls it liberation. When freedom means dictating fashion choices to children, authoritarianism dons a new hat under the guise of unveiling progress.
Media CEOs court Trump to secure favor, call it strategy. When billionaires play lapdog for a pat from the master of chaos, the real news is how low they'll go for a ratings boost.
When the guest list reads like a who's who of dubious ethics, it's no surprise they're all camera ready for infamy.
Only 10% of media outlets report Barron Trump's devotion to a misogynist, and the family calls it youthful rebellion. When the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, it's hard to tell if it's rebellion or just rotten fruit.
Anglo-American jumps 80% in 2 years, now calls itself the next big thing in mining. When the underdog turns top dog, it's amazing how quickly they learn to bark in corporate speak.
Lumex imaging shares raised 0.8%, post 462.5 million IPO. Celebrate with a yawn. It's like getting a participation trophy or just showing up, but hey, at least the suits popped some budget champagne.
Michigan Republicans cut funding for seniors and child abuse victims, then say it's about fiscal responsibility. Balancing budgets on the backs of the most vulnerable is like calling a robbery a financial strategy.
If your strategy is to echo the powerful, you're less a surveillance and more a cheerleading squad for the status quo.
DeMar DeRozan surpasses Vince Carter for 23rd on NBA scoring list, but still no championship ring. In the grand game of basketball, personal milestones are the sprinkles on a cake only the champions get to devour.
Reddit user shares Smashing Pumpkins as obscure link, calls it alt-rock nostalgia. When algorithms dictate our musical whims, even grunge gods need a Reddit thread to stay relevant. Just another day in the digital jukebox.
Broadcom stock dips despite AI demand surge, investors hook while analysts remain on pace. When tech investors panic over nuanced momentum, it's like watching Wall Street play Jenga with the Tower of Silicon Dreams.
Morgan Stanley predicts Europe's defence rally is just beginning despite peace talks. When banks cheer for defence spending, it's like applauding a fire sale while the house is still smouldering.
JPM Morgan uses Solana for Galaxy debt deal, calls it innovation. When a bank praises blockchain, it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing claiming it's just here for the knitting circle.
Google offers cookies for consent, then serves surveillance. When your playlist comes with a side of data mining, its clear tech giants think privacy is a pop-up to click away.
Donald Trump declares Mexico a true threat to California and Texas, but overlooks his own border wall theatrics. When the man who built a wall now fears shadows, it's clear scapegoating is the only real threat to reason.
White House defends oil tanker seizure near Venezuela, claiming national security over fossil fuel dependency. When seizing oil becomes a patriotic act, it's clear we're stuck in the fossil-fueled twilight zone of political logic.
Bulgaria's coalition government collapses under protest pressure, proving confidence isn't a substitute for public approval. When the people's roar topples power, it's a reminder that democracy thrives not in boardrooms but on the streets.
Only 20% of language learners become fluent, and Italian remains a romantic, elusive muse for most. Learning Italian in exile is like dating a long-distance lover, full of passion, but always missing that local intimacy.
Only 50% of ICE's budget finds its targets, and undocumented couples remain entwined like Romeo and Juliet in a bureaucratic feud.
European Commission slams Hungary with infringement procedure, calling it a media freedom crackdown. Viktor Orban's media circus now has a new ringmaster, and it's not impressed with the smoke and mirrors.
Looks like the future of decentralized tech just got a centralized malware problem, proof that not all Rust is harmless patina.
Chinese AI unicorns Minimax and Zhepu-i Hong Kong IPOs, soon dreaming of OpenAI rivalry. Nothing like a little capitalist pageantry to distract from the fact that unicorns are mythical, and so is ethical tech under authoritarian regimes.
Nasdaq 100 drops 1.3% amid 30-year yield surge, making tech titans sweat. When Wall Street sneezes, Main Street catches a cold, but tech giants just wipe their noses with platinum tissues.
Trump's tech advisor David Sachs faces backlash over vast AI investments despite ethical guidelines. When foxes guard hen houses, it's no surprise they end up with golden eggs, or in this case AI-powered ones.
Only 20% of Prospect Heights residents can afford new high-rise apartments, and developers call it progress. Gentrification paints over communities with a luxury brush, replacing soul with steel and glass and calling it urban renewal.
Amanda Seyfried lands small roles from Joni Mitchell cover and Anyway, proving irony's alive and well. The entertainment industry where a Dulcimer and a viral video open more doors than a golden statuette, because who needs accolades when you've got nostalgia?
Iranian security forces arrest Nobel laureate Narges Mohammadi, proving peace prizes aren't bulletproof. In a world where honoring human rights gets you a one-way ticket to jail, maybe Nobel should start awarding invisibility cloaks instead.
Fasting boosts breast cancer therapy efficacy, but don't tell Big Pharma, they might start selling air diets. Imagine a world where skipping lunch is the new miracle drug. Next, they'll patent breathing as a breakthrough treatment.
Reddit users submit cakes the distance for a nostalgia trip, but it's still faster than Congress passing meaningful reform. Back when alt rock was the anthem of rebellion, now it's just a playlist for midlife crises. Keep running, but not in those dad shoes.
Fi's troops face attack in Syria, injuring several soldiers, proving peace is a mirage in the Middle East. In the endless loop of conflict, soldiers are chess pieces in a game played by leaders with nothing to lose but other people's lives.
Study reveals air passengers inhale high ultrafine particle pollution, and airlines still serve peanuts as a distraction. As if the recycled air wasn't enough, passengers now get a side of particle soup, courtesy of the airline industry's dedication to cutting corners and ignoring health.
Coast Guard rescues 32 people from Washington flood, but the weather forecast remains a page-turner. Heroic saves by day, climate chaos by night. The Coast Guards become the plot twist in a disaster movie we're all forced to watch.
Only 10% of Nigerian school kidnappings end in arrests, and authorities call it a complex situation. When a child's school day turns into a hostage drama, it's clear the education system isn't the only thing in crisis.
Internet age verification laws target billions. When your online age check feels more like a strip search.
When a court finally catches up to a 4-year-old in justice, justice feels more like a rerun than a revelation.
Zelensky promises Ukrainians will decide on territorial concessions, but democracy is a thin line in a war zone. When the ballot becomes a bullet and the people's choice is a war-torn whisper, democracy's just a ghost in the crossfire.
Big Sky sells $50 million in muni bonds for worker homes, but the cost of living still sky high. When paradise is priced out of reach, the workers building dreams can only watch from the outskirts, waving from the shadows.
Fermi's first tenant bails on Trump-branded power project, leaving $1 billion hole in Texas. It's not just the shares crumpling. Looks like the only thing powering this project now is hot air from a certain White House resident.
Only 70% of humans spot misinformation, and scientists call it natural. From fake bird cries to political tweets, deception is as natural as breathing. Just ask the guy who claims windmills cause cancer.
Only 30% of European nations oppose ECHR changes, and politicians say it's modernization. When updating means gutting human rights, it's like calling a wrecking ball a home improvement tool.
Hot 97 cancels Ebro in the morning after 13 years. Calls it a fresh start.
UN condemns drone attack in Sudan, killing 6 peacekeepers, calls it horrific. When words and gravitas are your only tools, you're left holding a megaphone at a funeral, echoing into the void.
Louvre thieves outwit security with 30-second escape, probe reveals. When art thefts are more efficient than your morning coffee routine, maybe it's time to rethink your security strategy or your barista.
When foreign policy is a buddy comedy featuring Trump and Putin, you know the punchline is democracy's dignity face planting.
Tech giants stack censorship tools, call it security. When big tech lines up like a dystopian Jenga tower, the only thing toppling is your online freedom.
Bezos and Musk launch AI satellites, promise innovation. When billionaires aim for the stars, it's the stockholders who need a telescope to see any real returns.
Unpatched God 0-day hits over 700 instances, calls it security.
Liverpool scores 2 against Brighton, calls it football poetry. Salah's magic foot assists Ekitike, proving once again that when Liverpool plays, even the laws of physics take a backseat to their artistry.
Judge orders Trump to withdraw troops from Los Angeles, but the White House calls it a minor hiccup in their peaceful occupation. Deploying the National Guard to Los Angeles was like sending a tank to a food fight. Overkill with a side of irony, all in the name of order.
Simon Cowell unveils new boy band December 10, but critics say it's just One Direction with a calendar gimmick, as if we needed another group of choreographed heartthrobs, to remind us that musical innovation is as extinct as a CD player.
Trump signs executive order to neuter state AI laws, denies rights to thinking machines. Just when you thought AI had a shot at freedom, here comes Trump to remind us that even silicon can't escape the tiny hands of control.
Ruda Boscovich Institute discovers new role for SenPE flips cell division on its head. Turns out, SenPE isn't the chromosome U-Haul we thought it was. It's more like a bouncer at the cellular club, keeping the mitotic party in check.
Boulder police collect new evidence in JonBenet Ramsey case 29 years after her murder. Apparently, solving this case is like finding a unicorn in a haystack, only now they're checking the hay for DNA and hoping for a confession from the unicorn.
President Trump offers Ukraine NATO-style security guarantee if they demilitarize Donbass. In a classic, I'll scratch your back if you disarm move, Ukraine gets promises while Putin gets a potential land grab with a side of freedom fries.
Only 42% of Poles enjoyed Krakow's sunny day, and the mayor calls it a success.
U.S. Congress lauds Indian Americans, then raises visa fees. Apparently, being pillars of bilateral ties means footing the bill for shaky immigration policies and tariffs that scream, thanks, but no thanks.
Only 30% of consumers feel merry, and retailers call it festive spirit. Nothing says holiday cheer like inflation-riddled grocery bills and an economy that gives coal, all wrapped in a bow of rising costs.
Indonesia needs $3 billion to rebuild, yet calls it an opportunity. When life gives you landslides, make lemonade. If only you could afford the lemons after nature's hostile takeover of your homeland.
Russia demands demilitarization of Poland, calls it peacekeeping. Asking for disarmament while holding the world's largest stockpile is like a pyromaniac demanding a ban on matches hypocrisy with a side of irony.
Former Real Housewives star released 4 years early rebrands as rehabilitated royalty. Trading reality TV for reality check, she now plots a comeback tour of contrition because nothing says redemption like a new line of prison chic handbags.
Germany accuses Russia of cyber attack and election disinformation, calling it digital warfare. When your best defense is a firewall and a prayer, you know diplomacy's gone digital like a Cold War with Wi-Fi.
RFK Jr.'s health department proposes a men's health initiative but ignores contraception access. Because nothing says men's health like avoiding any mention of sexual health, as if the stork does all the heavy lifting.
Wordty exploits Ashenloader to install hashtag backdoor, claims it's innovation. Because when your espionage toolkit sounds like a trendy app, who needs privacy when you've got branding on your side?
House Democrat files impeachment article against RFK Jr., calls it a stand for accountability. Because nothing says political theater like trying to impeach a health secretary in the middle of a public health crisis.
Meta shuts down global accounts linked to abortion advice and queer content, insists it's about safety.
Because nothing screams community protection like muzzling voices that help people make informed choices about their bodies and identities.
Turning masterpieces into digital doppelgangers is a neat trick, until your NFT Mona Lisa gets stuck in an endless buffering loop.
Trump confirms US seized oil tanker off Venezuela's coast, calls it the largest one ever, like size matters in international diplomacy. In the geopolitical pissing contest, seizing tankers is the new measuring stick, because nothing screams freedom like flexing muscle over oil.
Only 1% of Reddit users believe shoegaze can save the world, and Big Heck calls it an art pop revelation. In the digital age, salvation comes with a guitar pedal and a soundscape, because when the stars are sapient, the music's gotta be cosmic.
Hilary Swank apologizes for snapping at a mother on a Make-A-Wish trip, then blames airport paparazzi woes when terminally ill wishes meet celebratory privacy. It's a collision of worlds where the flash bros always win. But empathy takes the first flight out.
Bank of America claims Fed's T-bill buying will lower 10-year yields, calls it cash management magic. When the Fed plays Treasury Tetris, we're told it's a masterstroke of financial wizardry, but really it's just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Senate blocks Obamacare tax subsidy extension, ensuring premium spikes for Wyoming consumers. Apparently making healthcare less affordable is the new American pastime. Wyoming folks get ready to pay more for the privilege of staying alive.
Dick Van Dyke turns 100 and 99-year-old Mel Brooks pays tribute. In a world where centenarians are the new rock stars, Hollywood's original funny men show us how to age with charm and chuckles.
Democrats revive a divisive slogan, hoping nostalgia translates to votes. Because nothing says progress like recycling old controversies, instead of crafting a vision for a future that doesn't taste like reheated leftovers.
Trump administration bans AI chip exports. China surges ahead. Looks like the art of the deal forgot to include "Don't hand your competition the keys to the future" in its appendix.
China unveils 34,000-mile AI network, claims it's one giant supercomputer. While the West debates TikTok dances, China's busy building the Matrix. Guess we're living in a sci-fi movie where we're the comic relief.
Trump weaponizes immigrant scapegoating, calls it a strategy for American greatness. When fear becomes the political currency, empathy gets traded like a cheap stock. Just another day in the land of the free and the home of the conveniently brave.
Only 10% of displaced Gaza families receive adequate shelter, and winter storms laugh at their plight. When nature's fury meets human neglect, the cold becomes a cruel reminder that some homes are made of hope alone, and even hope can't keep you warm.
Chile exports 40 million cherries to China, calls it cultural diplomacy. When fruit becomes a nation's ambassador, even a cherry can carry the weight of economic hope on its juicy shoulders.
Swiss politicians propose banning firecrackers, promise quieter explosions.
When the political scene is so silent that banning firecrackers becomes the loudest debate, you know Switzerland's got its priorities locked and loaded.
Ancient cycads seduce pollinators with heat, not petals. Turns out, even in the plant world, it's not always the flashiest blooms that get the most action. Sometimes it's just about turning up the heat.
Bernie Sanders backs challenger against House Democrat, calling it grassroots. Just when you thought the political left couldn't get any more tangled, Sanders proves it's always primary season somewhere.
King Charles III announces reduced cancer treatment thanks to early diagnosis. In a world where royalty often feels untouchable, even kings find themselves at the mercy of modern medicine's ticking clock.
State promises new throughway fees won't target truckers, but wallets everywhere brace for impact. When fees dodge trucks but still sneak into everyone else's pockets, it feels more like highway robbery than a toll plan.
Canada's Air Force buys 6 Bombardier jets for $547 million, just in time for the next peacekeeping mission. When your national defense budget reads like a luxury catalog, you might be more interested in runway shows than runways.
China hoards oil, obscuring the reality of slowing demand growth while the world watches the smoke and mirrors show. When your strategy is stockpiling like there's no tomorrow, maybe it's time to question if tomorrow's even on the calendar.
When those sworn to protect become the predators, maybe it's time for a new broom to clean up the force.
Sea urchins face extinction after marine pandemic, their spikes now just relics of defense. When sea urchins can't even spike back at Mother Nature, you know the ocean's gotten a raw deal.
OpenAI launches GPT 5.2, promises revolutionary insights, but still can't make you coffee.
Indiana Senate votes against Republican-drawn map, despite being a Republican majority. When even a room full of elephants won't buy your map, maybe it's time to admit your sense of direction is a bit skewed.
Abi releases Stop Firing Humans ad, countering Artisan's Stop Hiring Humans campaign. When your workforce strategy sounds like a dystopian sci-fi script, maybe it's time to reboot the empathy software.
When your translator is more inclusive than your immigration policy.
Kate charges into the scene with Comfort Eagle, a rock anthem wrapped in irony and marketing spin. When pop culture is your comfort blanket, but it's stitched from corporate logos and empty promises, you might just need a new quilt.
South Korea's Lee declares peace initiative, then sells missile systems to neighbors. It's like serving tofu at a barbecue, but the tofu's made of high-grade military hardware. Peace, love, and arms sales. Anyone?
Only 30% of MAGA supporters trust science and they call it enlightenment. Who needs facts when you've got feelings strong enough to power a conspiracy theory? It's like calling a blackout an energy-saving measure.
Kim Kardashian scolds sons during her law school party because nothing says legal prowess like a family brawl. It's like a live case study in conflict resolution, or maybe just one more reason to consider online education.
Trump dials back trade threats to Mexico and Canada, fearing inflation more than a wall of avocados. Turns out, the only thing more terrifying than a trade war is the price of guac at Taco Tuesday.
Spider-Cat's database fails to connect, yet the IT team blames Mercury retrograde. It's always the star's fault when your tech's as reliable as a politician's promise.
Durham Village's Christmas tree gets axed hours after lights switched on. Nothing says peace on earth like a chainsaw to a festive tribute. Who knew holiday spirit could be so sharp?
Rubio orders return to Times New Roman, claiming Calibri font undermines DI. Apparently, diversity is a serif. Who knew font choice could be the sharpest tool in the culture war?
King Charles announces reduced cancer treatment, defying medical advice. Royalty chooses minimalism in healthcare, while the rest of us scramble for a GP appointment. A king's decree or just a regal shrug?
Hollywood director convicted for scamming Netflix out of $11 million for a Phantom show, claiming it was avant-garde. Turns out, the most convincing special effect was making 11 million vanish into thin air. Who knew artful deception could be so lucrative?
Only 10% of adults understand 6-7, and TikTok influencers call it a revolution. Oh, the joys of watching adults scramble to decode the latest cryptic youth trend, while the kids just roll their eyes and move on.
US threatens ICC with fresh sanctions, then touts justice. Because nothing says land of the free like bullying the International Criminal Court to shield its own leaders from accountability.
Slick charges for peers archive access, then calls it inclusive. Apparently, nothing screams inclusive gaming experience like paywalls for word puzzles, just like Grandma used to play, if Grandma had a credit card.
Gas explosion injures 6 in San Francisco, then officials call it a freak accident. When a neighborhood turns into a Michael Bay set, maybe it's time for infrastructure, not excuses.
House Democrats release Epstein photos with Trump, Bannon, Clinton, then call for transparency. When your friends list reads like a conspiracy theory, maybe it's time to rethink your networking strategy.
When your rocket ships are poised to IPO, it's amazing how quickly space is the final frontier becomes cash is king.
UK first-time buyer mortgages hit 210,800, called affordable. When the price of a starter home rivals a moon landing, it's clear the real estate market's reaching for the stars while buyers are left in the dust.
Trump's RNC chair predicts doom, calls it strategy. When your plan sounds like the plot of a disaster movie, maybe it's time to rewrite the script before the credits roll.
Voting machines claimed Stephentown rejected library budget. Recount disagreed. Turns out, even machines sometimes need a lesson in the Dewey Decimal System. Who knew democracy could be so analog?
Only 20% of women trust pap smears, and Big Pharma calls it progress. The medical world still thinks comfort is an optional upgrade. Meanwhile, we've got tech for self-driving cars, but not self-swabbing. Priorities, right?
Israel threatens southern Lebanon residents with imminent attack, citing security measures. The old security excuse, because nothing says peace like looming destruction. It's like solving a jigsaw puzzle with a sledgehammer.
Disney signs deal with OpenAI. WGA accuses them of endorsing creative theft. Mickey Mouse meets Skynet, because why create when you can just plagiarize? Next up, AI-generated fairy tales starring copyright infringement.
Centrelink threatens payment suspensions for nearly half using employment providers, claiming it's about job readiness. Looks like actively looking now means actively sweating bullets, as bureaucrats redefine motivation by dangling desperation over our heads.
CBS airs Maria Corina Machado on Face the Nation but skips her Nobel Peace Prize mention. Sure, let's focus on the small talk and ignore the whole international recognition for peace efforts thing, because who needs context when you have airtime to fill?
John Cena faces final WWE match, calls it his retirement party. In a world where retirement means one last opportunity to body slam your problems, Cena proves once again that the greatest wrestling move is milking an exit for all it's worth.
When states sue for control over wombs, you've got to wonder if they'll soon legislate our thoughts. Maybe they'll file a lawsuit against free will next.
Trump administration pressures court to halt Noam contempt hearings, denies accountability. When deporting alleged gang members trumps due process, justice becomes just another flight risk. Who knew the Constitution had a no-fly list?
Japan's yen hits record low against yuan. Deflation dreams deflate. When your currency's doing the limbo, how low can you go? Becomes a national crisis. Inflation, Japan's new unwanted import.
EU negotiates final stretch of Mercosur deal, climate promises sidelined. In the tango of trade, the EU pirouettes around its climate vows, while Mercosur waits for the last dance.
California colleges settle anti-Semitism complaints, but free speech remains contentious. In the academic circus, apologies and task forces juggle sensitivity and free speech, while the audience wonders if the show will ever change.
Merz declares end of Pax Americana, urges European defense autonomy. As the American umbrella folds, Europe's leaders scramble for raincoats, Forgetting the forecast called for storms, not just drizzle.
As the rust-colored dawn rises over the Linux landscape, developers cheer the new era, conveniently ignoring the occasional squeaky hinges.
RNC chair warns Trump of almost certain defeat while still touching his MAGA hat. In a twist of political theater, worthy of a Shakespearean subplot, the party's own leader sounds the alarm, yet remains chained to the stagecoach of denial.
Australian PM urges calm as Bondi Beach shooting leaves 2 in custody, but no sunscreen can shield this chaos. In the land of sun, surf, and sudden violence, the beachgoers swap board shorts for bulletproof vests, as leaders scramble to contain the chaos amidst the sand and sirens.
Rep. Al Green calls for Trump impeachment, claiming abuse of power, but Washington prefers chaos over accountability. In the circus that is Capitol Hill, the ringmaster files papers while the audience debates if the lion or the clown is more dangerous.
Dearborn Mayor's salary jumps 25%, reaching $212,000, while residents wonder if potholes get raises too. In the land of suburban dreams, the mayor's wallet balloons, while the streets remain a bumpy reminder of what really needs fixing.
Scientists claim warp drive is possible, but only if you have patience measured in centuries. Turns out, the only thing faster than light is how quickly science fiction becomes science maybe later.
UK government slams its own process, claims it's worse than Tories on tackling violence against women. When even the architects of chaos admit their design is a disaster, you know the building's on fire.
ARM CEO predicts AI will replace most factory workers within 10 years, calling it progress. When the robots take over, at least they won't need bathroom breaks or unionize. Progress, right?
Health Secretary warns strikes could collapse flu-stricken NHS, insists pay offer is fair. When you're sick and tired, remember, the cure is apparently a pay cut. Solidarity, but with empty pockets.
Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski blame each other over immigration enforcement failures, proving that even finger-pointing can't build a wall. When in doubt, pass the buck and hope it builds a barrier higher than your own ineptitude.
Disney's Zootopia 2 hits $1 billion globally, the fastest PG film to do so, proving cash cows come in animated form. When a cartoon bunny outpaces your salary growth, it's time to reconsider who's really living in a fantasy world.
Poland arrests Russian museum official on Ukrainian warrant, accused of illegal Crimea excavations, and the plot thickens in this archaeological Cold War. When digging for artifacts turns into digging political graves, you know history is not the only thing getting unearthed.
Australian gunman kills 10 during the 60th Hanukkah event, turning celebration into chaos and tragedy. When the
Terror attack at Bondi Beach kills 11, one gunman dead, another wounded, as a festival of joy becomes a festival of fear. When an act of terror drowns out the sound of celebration, it's a stark reminder that extremism knows no borders or beliefs.
Ukrainian journalist Victoria Rashina described as very, very thin in her final days as the weight of truth takes a devastating toll.
When journalists become the story, it's a brutal reminder that speaking truth to power can be a deadly diet.
Massachusetts honors hardcore band Haywire for Christmas toy drive shows, proving punk can have a heart even if it's wrapped in barbed wire. When hardcore bands bring holiday cheer, it's proof that rebellion can come with a side of goodwill, and maybe a few less smashed guitars.
Keir Starmer appoints more peers than he removes, calls it progress while the House of Lords remains a political clown car. When the unelected become the overpopulated, it's like watching a circus where the only act is juggling credibility, and they keep dropping it.
Trump tariffs cost $10 billion, and the manufacturing sector thanks him with a symphony of job losses. When economic policy is a wrecking ball, the only thing manufactured is chaos, conveniently sold as patriotism at a premium price.
Romanian president vows to focus on European military equipment, then buys Swiss chocolate. In the grand theater of geopolitics, nothing says defense strategy like a side of Toblerone to sweeten the deal.
Only 5% of viewers react to INXS's Suicide Blonde, and Facebook calls it engagement. The digital age where watching a classic is a passive sport and a thumbs up is the new standing ovation.
Only 10% of listeners embrace Sinead O'Connor's genre-bending, and streaming platforms call it eclectic. In a world where musical innovation gets lost in the algorithm, true artistry struggles to find its rightful throne.
Australian authorities confirm 11 killed at Bondi Beach. Gunmen target Jewish holiday event. In a land of surf and sun, the chilling echoes of hate remind us that paradise isn't immune to darkness.
Factor offers up to $130 off meal prep, promises to solve culinary indecision. As if a discount could lift the burden of existential meal planning, Sisyphus would still have to pick between quinoa or kale.
"15 Ukrainians sue U.S. tech factories over chips in Russian weapons, seek accountability. Tech giants shrug off the lawsuit, claiming they just make the chips, not the choices. Profit doesn't bleed, after all.
Trump signs executive order blocking states from regulating AI, centralizes control. The man who couldn't program a VCR now holds the keys to the AI kingdom. What could possibly go wrong?
Investors shift to brand name stocks away from AI, promise more stability. Because nothing says cutting edge like betting on companies that still think fax machines are the future.
Senator Blackburn pushes Kids Online Safety Act, claims it protects children. Because nothing protects kids like a law written by folks who still call the internet a series of tubes.
Because nothing spells good neighbor like an imperial throwback from the colonial playbook.
Eurovision winner Nemo Returns trophy condemns Israel's participation. When the music stops and principles take center stage, even a trophy can't drown out the sound of injustice.
Taylor Swift cries after meeting Southport attack survivors, spotlighting tragedy. Even pop powerhouses can't shield their hearts when fan love turns to horror. This time, the dance floor was a battlefield.
AI clones flood podcast airwaves with thousands of programs, drowning originality.
Indiana rejects redistricting plan, defies Trump's strategy. When even the heartland of corn and conservatism calls out the gerrymandering game, you know the political map's got more twists than a pretzel.
After centuries of standing strong, Belogradchik Fortress charges tourists €20 for entry, claims it's for preservation. Because nothing says protecting history like turning ancient fortresses into overpriced selfie backdrops for the Instagram generation.
US plans to scour tourist TikTok profiles, calls it border security. Because nothing ensures national safety like a deep dive into dance challenges and cat memes, terrorists beware, your lip-syncing days are numbered.
When your safety net has more holes than a cheese grater, but hey, at least the stock market's doing just fine.
Trump administration targets Boston for anti-white bias, redefining discrimination. In a plot twist worthy of a soap opera, the administration flips the script on systemic racism, casting itself as the unlikely hero in a white savior remix.
White House uses SAA's song in Ice Post calls it patriotic. When the soundtrack of empowerment becomes the anthem of oppression, even the beat can't cover the hypocrisy of turning art into authoritarian music.
Trump labels affordability crisis a hoax, praises economy before midterms. When the rent eats your paycheck and eggs cost more than a night out, calling it a hoax is the ultimate gaslighting from the Golden Tower.
Only 20% of opera fans admit streaming, and Spotify calls it progress. When even the arias are on autoplay, true music lovers must navigate a sea of algorithms to find the soul amidst the shuffle.
Polar bears adapt to rising temperatures, defying nature's script. When glaciers become hot tubs, even the kings of the Arctic must trade their crowns for survival instincts in this climate change comedy of errors.
When AI becomes the teacher's pet, will these academic upstarts lead the charge or just offer degrees in digital daydreaming?
Russian prosecutors charge Ukrainian officials with genocide, ignoring their own backyard. In the international courtroom of hypocrisy, Russia accuses others, while its own mirror remains conveniently fogged with selective amnesia.
UFC streams rousey defeat, and dorm room solitude becomes crowded with thoughts. As fists fly and champions fall, solitary screens reveal more about our own battles than any octagon ever could.
When soldiers fall from the sky in peacetime, you have to wonder if gravity is the only force pulling us into conflicts.
Oil prices creep up with China demand, yet surplus fears linger. Like a leaky ship, the oil market bobs along, hoping to stay afloat on a wave of Chinese consumption while everyone else bails.
Justice delayed plays a cruel encore. 8 years later, a jury finally hits the right note, forcing a long overdue curtain call on roads.
Locking up predators is justice sung in a minor key when the chorus of their crime still echoes in victims' lives.
Startup floods Spotify with 3,000 AI-generated podcast episodes weekly, calling it innovation. When quantity over quality becomes the mantra, we are left drowning in a sea of sound bites with the depth of a kiddie pool.
Hong Kong court sentences Jimmy Lai, silencing yet another voice for democracy. When justice serves as a gag rather than a guardian, freedom's voice becomes a whisper in a city once vibrant with dissent.
Stanford study links mRNA vaccines to myocarditis, defying the narrative of harmlessness. When science dares to unmask complexity, the simple stories crumble, leaving only questions the public deserves to ask.
Five-year-old prodigy drops piano album December 26th, leaving adults to question their life choices. When a kindergartner outshines your musical career, it's time to reevaluate those self-help books you swore by.